Following on from that point, Frank, if you look at the elite programme, one of the important aspects of that is you can get a player from, say, a weak club, say a junior player, who has a talent to be good enough to get to the county team. But in other counties, if you're playing at junior level, those players are missed. But the elite programme will solve that problem.
Yeah, well, also the development squad model will as well, in that we will ensure that the players from clubs across the county are seen throughout the process, but also in the regional tournament we have had situations whereby there has been a player or two that we haven't seen but has played well in that tournament, and then they've come into the development squad the following year. So it does happen from time to time, but I think it doesn't happen that often, to be honest with you, as far as Longford is concerned. It's a small county, so it's unusual for a player to go through the system without being picked up. Now, if a guy is performing well...
In other counties it is a problem.
It is a problem, obviously, in the likes of Dublin or where there's a huge playing population, but we try and make sure that we have the best talent available to us. And if there is a player performing well with his club or performing well with his college that we're not aware of, we find out very quickly, and we want to get them into the teams, into the panels as soon as we can.
Now, one contentious area in Gaelic football, it also applies to hurling as well, is players moving to bigger clubs in Dublin. A lot of traditional GAA people don't like to see people playing with clubs other than their own home club. What's your opinion on that?
I would be a bit traditional in that regard as well. I would have always had the view that a player should stay with his club unless there is a reason to move elsewhere. Now, I should say that in my own playing days, I did move, but not to a bigger club as such. I moved from Dublin, my own home club, to a club in Dublin because I was working in Dublin, and it just suited better. But I did go back to the home club then for the latter years. But in general, I would be against that, if that would be my view on it. And I think from a player's point of view, if you want to develop as a player, you can do it through the development squad system. You can do it through your county panel in Longford. So I don't really see why a player would need to do that in a small county like Longford.
And not only that, but Cyril, that causes a lot of tension between clubs, and there's a really high profile example at the moment, Paddy Moville moving from Garrycastle to St. Bridget's, Westmeath to Roscommon.
But just what Damien was saying earlier on, like the regional squads, if clubs investigated them, we were allowed to investigate more. We had a discussion there a few weeks ago whereby we were talking about having the intermediate championship in March and running over 6-7 weeks, and then having an amalgamation, taking 3 intermediate clubs, amalgamating them and putting them into the senior. And we were still coming up with how many teams? 16, was it?
Yeah, we're getting us up to 4 groups of 4.
Yeah, but that would, the player that's striving to play football at a higher standard was going to get his cake and eat it, really, because he was playing club football at intermediate. I'm just referring now to intermediate here. Club football with his intermediate, and then he was going on and playing senior level. Now I know hundreds of players that would give their left arm to say they played a senior championship and have never. And there's nothing worse than speaking to the 45-year-old, whether it be at a GA function down the line in the Rustic Inn or wherever it may be, and he's looking up saying, what if? And if you could just grab the underage people and let them see this, that it's awful, to feel that you could play at a certain level but you never got the opportunity. And what we're speaking about, if clubs buy into it, and if we're allowed to roll, we never try anything. It's safer not to do anything sometimes. So maybe it's time we just have to try something. All that can happen is it not works, or it doesn't work, I should say.
Tony, I'll just come back to your point about players going to bigger clubs. One thing where the GEA is really starting to create a conversation now is the counties like your Longfords and your Leitrim's that have very small populations, let alone playing populations. How can they get those counties to be competitive with Dublin, who are winning, is it 11 and 12 Leinsters? Your Meads and your Kildares can't even compete with that. So one thing which has worked, to my mind, has worked well in hurling, which I think they really need to look at bringing into football, is whereby you, and again we'll use Dublin because Dublin have probably 100 players capable of playing county football, whereby somebody, if it's Frank McNamee that's playing in Dublin, he's outside of their top 30 or 45, that he can get a dispensation for a 3-year term to go off to another county, but it can't be a county of his choice. It needs to be divided out between the various counties that are struggling. So whether it be the bottom 16 in Division 3 and 4, and they get a player for
A bit like the draft system in American football.
which works brilliant in American football, basketball. You never see the same team dominating year upon year. It's always cyclical. So the worst team gets the best player the following year, and then that team will eventually become stronger. But I think that's something that would need to be looked at, because you can't, if you throw along for the €1 million, it's not going to make any difference. We're not going to magic a number of players or new players. Probably the best thing we could do is give it to some pharmaceutical company, build a factory and get workers in, and we might get players that way. But €1 million is not going to give us players. Whereas if players that are off that level but can't get into their own team can come back into the system of Longfords and Leitrim's and your various other counties, then that will make those counties stronger. But then if that player, of course, will have an ambition to play for Dublin or wherever he came from, so then he stays for 3 years, and if he can get onto that Dublin panel, so be it, let him off. There will be more players coming through, but I think that there needs to be a better divide of the play and quality of player that we have out there.